How's everybody doing? Duane Fletcher with Fletcher Community Media. Many of you may know me from my documentary movies. I filmed a lot of documentary movies here in town. Also began to write some action novels and mystery novels. Some of you may see me around Jacksonville promoting my books, action novels, mystery novels. Basically, I said I was going to start doing this podcast again. So what I want to do is expand a little bit, give you guys an update from the last podcast. As you know, I was talking about City Council here in Jacksonville. City Council here in Jacksonville is arguing over 5G. This right here is the number of the bill, and this is the minutes to the last City Council meeting. This is Jacksonville City Council meeting. It's one of their agendas, and this right here is this bill arguing over 5G. Well, basically, cellular phone providers, they want to put up the new 5G towers, and they're getting a lot of flack from it because they say the 5G is killing birds. The 5G is too much radiation and whatnot, and things like that, and that basically it's too hot. That's what they're saying. That the 5G is giving off too much radiation. Okay, now the thing is, what was disturbing to me is that the language that these people, these rich white people from San Marco and Ponte Vedra, lawyers, school teachers, bankers, basically the language that these guys were using were things that I had already talked about in 2015. Okay, I passed these flyers out in 2015, talked about crowd control devices on telephone poles. As some of you may know, the police have been shooting unarmed black people. So let's read off some names here. Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown, Eric Garner, Tony Robinson, Jordan Davis. We had two here in Florida that were shot by not police but unarmed civil. They were unarmed black men shot by armed civilians. We had two here in Florida. One on the south side of town, over on the South Side Boulevard at the Gate gas station, where a young man was shot and killed because he had loud rap music playing. And then there was another guy in Orlando who was killed because he looked suspicious. And this resulted in protesting. Okay. So in response to the protests, the police were issued this military style riot gear. Okay, this can hurt your ears, it can burn your skin, it can mess up your Wi-Fi, and stuff like that to keep you from filming the police, different things like that. So basically, this is their response. They put up this to the protest. They put up this stuff. Now, I talked about hot radiation coming from the telephone poles years ago. Talked about them getting equipment to monitor it, people getting their own personal equipment to monitor it. Maybe even getting a group of citizens to get their own expert to basically dissect one of these things. Maybe purchase one of these transformers or whatever they're calling them. But what they're doing is that they're lying to you. It's a bunch of this surveillance stuff that's coming from overseas, and these countries are communist countries. Okay, these are communist countries that make a lot of this equipment, and they're using it on us here in America. But we're used to being free. We're not used to being monitored for no reason. Okay, first of all, I've never seen a protest on Edgewood Avenue. I've never seen a protest. Edgewood runs north, south, east, and west. It's one of the only streets in Jacksonville that's that long, and and there's equipment all up and down Edgewood Avenue. Equipment on top of equipment. JEA pulls up, they put this stuff on the telephone pole. Then another contractor comes in working for Bell South, he puts up equipment. Then another contractor comes in doing the roads and puts up more equipment on the traffic lights, and it's overkill. But they don't tell you that these cameras and surveillance cameras and systems that they're putting up have a separate set of controls that have to do with crowd control. Like I said, it can hurt your ears, burn your skin. I believe that this stuff needs to be monitored because a lot of times, like I said, I've never seen any protests on Edgewood Avenue, but the equipment is there and it's being used. It looks like they're using it like a night light, like if a child was afraid of the dark, they got this thing up and it's just zapping people, so other people can walk up and down the street without being afraid of the dark, like a night light or something. It's ridiculous. It's an absurdity. It needs to be stopped. Okay. Now, also, what I wanted to say was that I've constructed a bill to guide, give them like a guidelines. I wanted to give you guys an update, and the update is as follows. Since the last podcast, I've talked to one state senator and about 20 city council members, and I passed out a bunch of copies of this, and hopefully we can get someone in Tallahassee to adopt this bill so that they start to pay attention to this equipment. Like I was saying, they need to monitor this because somebody's been going to town with it. Oh my God. What do we need? We need some body cams for the police. I know where to get those. Let's get them from China. Oh my God, what do we need? We need surveillance cameras for the courthouse. We need surveillance cameras for the sheriff's department. We need traffic cameras. Oh my God, I know where to get that. We can get them from China. What do we need? Shot spotter to monitor crime in the neighborhood. Oh my God, I know where to get that from. Let's get it from China. Okay. Somebody's been going to town with this stuff, and they need to stop because now there's a law. There's several lawsuits and criminal probes going on all over the country. They are pulling this equipment down off the military bases. They're pulling this foreign equipment down off the military bases. They're pulling it down out of the courthouses, other government buildings in Washington, and other places. They're pulling all of this equipment down. And the reason why is because because a foreign government can hack in and use it. Now, with that being said, if some of this stuff has crowd control weapons on it, it definitely needs to come down. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer. Like, what part don't you understand? So you don't trust this foreign country that manufactured this because they might hack into it. Well, if some of this stuff has a dual set of controls that has crowd control devices on it, anti-personnel devices, it needs to be taken down also. The Hague needs to be notified. Okay, and I'm gonna tell you why I think the Hague needs to be notified. Some of you may not know, but the Hague is a war crimes tribunal in Europe. Okay, they hunt down Nazis from World War II. They put them on. They drag them back to Europe and put them on trial. They hunt down warlords from Africa that have been doing genocides. Warlords from other parts of Eastern Europe that have been doing genocides. And they basically they have another thing that they handle, which has to do with like weapons of war. Okay, so basically this is the same people that I remember after the Vietnam War, the North Vietnamese had a bunch of landmines that were still out there buried, and they were like livestock, cattle was walking over this stuff, exploding. Children from the villages there in Southeast Asia were walking over the top of these landmines and blowing themselves up. The Hague forced the North Vietnamese to go out and start looking for this stuff and dig it up, okay? Because it's an anti-personnel device, and they also regulated during I think World War I. They regulated the use of mustard gas and things like that. So they have they handle weapons also. Reason why I'm bringing this up is because not just the police have this stuff now. Tom, Dick, and Harry has this stuff now. It's at your warehouses. It's at the office buildings. And some people probably may even have it on their homes, but they're using, and this is riot gear, anti-personnel, military grade riot gear that can burn your skin or hurt your ears or mess up your Wi-Fi, and everybody has it now because they're bringing it over. They're telling customs apparently, or Homeland Security, that it's just a camera. Oh, it's just a camera system. It's just a surveillance camera system. It's not. They are lying. And now that Congress has made a law, August 19th of this year, August 19th, 2019 was the deadline that any government institution, law enforcement, city hall, military bases, courthouses, the sheriff's department, correctional facilities, traffic lights, anything owned by the city or the government or something like that has some kind of surveillance system in place. They have to check their equipment. They have to make a plan, formulate a plan to take this stuff down. Okay, it has to be taken down or mounted. It's not a local law. I didn't write it. Congress wrote it. Congress wrote one. Okay, Congress wrote one, and the deadline was August of 2019. So it's there. It's just not being enforced. Now, there's another thing that's not being enforced. Okay, which is this. I think there's another law that has to do with the Federal Supply Chain Act that protects our federal funds from being squandered on some of this junk that's coming from overseas, where basically the law enforcement, they, like the same way a lot of people clip coupons, the sheriff's department apparently does that too also. So they can be like, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. The Chinese have this new device, and it's called Pooter Scooter. And you put it up on a telephone pole. And it can hear a dog fart. And then once it hears the dog fart, it can dispatch a guy on a scooter to come scoop up the poopy. So, and I can get them in bulk. If you just give me a couple of $100,000, I can get them in bulk, and I can put them all over town where they're, it's ridiculous. It's an absurdity. Their funds need to be taken from them or monitored so they won't load up on any more of this junk. And the sheriff's department also trying to be slick, because the sheriff's department, they're gonna try and just make you check one device. Oh, we want you to check ShotSpotter. Yeah, the office that monitors ShotSpotter is very accessible. It's in the courthouse, and these people are hardworking men and women. They love their job. They just sit there all day. But basically, they're not telling you this is some more gimmick junk from overseas. And it's a microphone that they're using without a warrant. Without a warrant, they get to use it. It's a microphone, period. There ain't no two ways about it. It's a microphone and they're using it without a warrant, just indiscriminately. It's just on. It's on the telephone poles and it's on. Okay? So that's what they want you to check. We're not checking that, buddy. No. We want to check all of this stuff. We want to check the surveillance cameras inside the correctional facility. We want to check the surveillance cameras inside the sheriff's department. We want to check the surveillance cameras inside City Hall, the surveillance cameras inside the courthouses, the surveillance cameras at the military bases, who have been definitely crying foul about this junk from overseas that somebody went to town purchasing. The military bases, it's all on the body cams in New York. In New York right now, there's a big case in New York where they found it all on the police and body cams, military body cams. They found that this is ridiculous. So, like I was saying, if this stuff has a separate set of controls and it can do some little James Bond type stuff, then it definitely needs to come down, because it can be used against you, which is the common sense of the thing. That's the elephant that's in the room that nobody's talking about. The elephant that's in the room, that this stuff can be used against you, like with a nice little judo flip, bam, you getting zapped by your own equipment. Okay? A nice little judo flip. So it needs to come down regardless. What I did was I wrote this thing here. This like expands, and I'm hoping, like I said, I talked to one senator here in town. I've talked to about 20. I spoke twice before a group of 20 city council members, and hopefully we can get some of these government people here in Jacksonville. Excuse me. Hopefully we can get some of these government people here in Jacksonville to adopt a bill like this and make it into a law that says that not only just these cameras have to be checked, but everything that they got from over there. Everything that they got from over there, because it can be used against you. It's ridiculous. You know? And I was also talking about the Hague, but the Hague is the War Crimes Tribunal people overseas. They need to be notified. Not only them, but the ATF. Okay? The Hague, this is a weapon. It needs to be classified as a weapon, and it needs to be classified as what it is. Okay? Common sense of it. What was this built for? What was this thing manufactured for? Oh, it was designed to use on enemy soldiers, correct? Okay? It's military grade equipment. So that being said, the ATF needs to be notified, because Tom, Dick, and Harry has it now, not just the military and the police and stuff like that. Not only that, but the Hague, if I'm not mistaken, has a guideline under military equipment that has to do with non-detectable fragments and non-visual particles. Under those guidelines, this needs to be classified as a weapon and needs to be either outlawed or monitored in different situations. It needs to be better than what it is. Okay, which I will get into, that it needs to be, if they're gonna have stuff like that, they definitely need a computer system in place, whereas they can't leave it on all day. Imagine getting like an X-ray all day or all night. Okay, that would burn your body up. You would shrivel up like Steve Jobs did. If somebody gave you an X-ray all day, all night, every day, you would shrivel up like Steve Jobs, and your body would become nothing. Or Patrick Swayze, some of the other people, or the guy from the Beastie Boys. Your body would just shrivel up if you were given. I'm not saying that that's what happened to these guys. I'm saying that your body would shrivel up like a raisin. Okay, so basically, if it's going to be classified as a weapon, then the Hague needs to be notified of it, because They're the people that basically monitor military weapons that are anti-personnel weapons, and that's what this is. Point in fact, clear as day, no two ways about it. This is military grade weapon, and it's being used on civilians. It's on all the telephone poles now. I think what they was telling people, well, oh, it's just gonna be in the black community because they're protesting, they're angry. It's just gonna be in the black community. Okay. So it's everywhere now, and not only is it everywhere, but it's very accessible. Okay. So the Hague needs, the word was okay. The Hague needs to classify this as something that emits a non-detectable fragment or a non-visual particle. That's what this is. It can hurt your ears. It can burn your skin. It's like a microwave. They can aim at somebody. It can kill you if it's left on all day and all night, like a night light, which basically looks like what they're doing. They leave this thing on like a night light, and it's hurting people. Okay? And it's not supposed to. There's, like I said, I've never seen any riots on Edgewood Avenue, but all up and down Edgewood Avenue. You like I said, first one guy pulls up in JEA truck, he puts up the shot spotter. Then another guy pulls up, he puts up traffic cams. He puts up traffic cameras. Then another guy pulls up, he's a contractor for Wi-Fi. He works for AT&T. He puts up communication devices saying that it's under the guise of AT&T. There, it's overkill, and it's all up and down the streets over here. Okay? So if I can imagine, if you know anything about the slickness of government stuff like that, you will understand that if they said this was going to be just for the black people, what they did was they actually put it everywhere. Okay? But they got other white people to agree to it because they thought it's just, because I done seen this look that white people give each other. You know, if you bring something like this up, hold on. You bring two white people together and you explain to one of them what the other has done to you. And they got this look where like, hey, you know what I'm doing to these guys. Come on, man. They got this look that they give each other. But if you you got to get them to actually start arguing about this point, because Congress has made a law that they're going to start checking this stuff. They're going to start checking it. This is our moment as the black community so that we are not in bondage 24/7. Okay. Okay, where and there's so much equipment out there in different forms. You got one contractor putting it up on the stoplights. You got one contractor putting it up on the telephone poles. You got a communication company, AT&T, a contractor that goes out and puts stuff like this up too for the government. Okay? It's so much of this stuff out there that they watching you so close, they arguing with you about what you watching on TV. Okay? They don't want you to watch Channel 4 news. They want you to watch Fox 30. So if you're watching Channel 4 news, all of a sudden the TV's acting up all of a sudden, you know, or they don't like certain websites you go on. Okay? When somebody starts watching you that close where they arguing with your TV, it's ridiculous. They need to stop. They need to take a chill pill themselves. Okay? So basically, what I wanted to do was go over the update. What I did was I revised this a little bit. So I'm gonna read it out to you. Okay? Take my glasses off here. Concerned Citizens Committee this is a bill. This is a bill that I hope and pray can be turned into a law. So, Concerned Citizens of Jacksonville, Florida, Principal Author Rufus Duane Breon Fletcher III, Delegation for Fletcher Community Media. Title of this bill is called Bill calling for vetting of any new monitoring equipment added to the telephone poles. Be enacted by the United States Congress and concerned citizens of America. The preamble is as follows, okay? We the people, in order to protect ourselves from any and all undue monitoring by law enforcement, will from henceforth vet any and all surveillance or monitoring equipment added to the public telephone poles and other fixtures. Law enforcement is notorious at times for invasions of privacy. They have put illegal microphones around town that have the power to record and monitor any conversation without a warrant. Not only powerful microphones, but they have also put up other equipment under the guise of crowd control. They have put up riot equipment to be used in case of civil unrest. There needs to be parameters set for a guideline for erecting of said equipment. First and foremost, let's outline the equipment's capabilities. The crowd control systems in place are spin-offs of the LRAD and ADS systems of the past, okay? LRAD is a long-range acoustic device. This device is used in crowd control and can emit a supersonic sound wave. It is designed to hurt the ears and disorientate a crowd of enemy soldiers. Certain contractors have decided it could be marketed to civilian police forces for crowd control purposes. The ADS is an active denial system. It is designed to emit a microwave hot enough to burn the skin of an enemy soldier. This also is now being marketed to civilian law enforcement for crowd control. You may ask why military equipment is being issued out to regular police forces. The reason they give is that the African American community has been protesting the shooting deaths of unarmed black men by white police officers. In response to the protest, the police have opted to pass out military riot gear. This is ridiculously unfair to the African American community. They are the victims, and any protesting has been done out of duress from the racial killings of their youth. The police forces need to be monitored, not the black community. It is also believed that this equipment was approved fraudulently. No one cared when it was first noticed. At face value, they thought it would just be in the ghettos, but it's everywhere now. This being said, the ground rules need to be set. The equipment should only be set up in areas where protests take place. Any crowd control devices should be on the courthouses, police stations, and city hall, not everywhere all over town. Courthouses, police stations, and city hall, that's where the lion's share of civil unrest demonstrations take place. This equipment should not be in residential areas of the community. Lining the streets with this racist robot is not the answer. It's a police state. If protesting breaks out in a residential area, said equipment should be carried in and out of that afflicted area by police. It should not be set up or stationed it should not be stationed on every corner like a soldier manning a post. This leaves too much room for the equipment to be used unjustly and at times for no reason at all. Okay, basically, like I was saying, there are posse comitatus laws out there dating back to the American Revolution that says that no group of soldiers can't just hang out on the corner and conduct business. Okay? If there's soldiers on every corner hanging out, then it's a police state. Okay? It's not a democracy anymore. So, this is what they wanted to keep. Back then, I would imagine in the 1700s, the problem was that there were groups of redcoats hanging out on the corner. There were groups of redcoats hanging out on the corner, and they were stealing people's chickens. They were drinking up all the ale without paying for it. They were harassing the farmer's daughter. They were just being a nuisance. So they made posse comitatus laws that say, hey, we're going to kick these guys out, and then we're going to make a law that says no group of soldiers can ever do that again. No group of soldiers can't just hang out on the corner. That's what this is. If you put these things on a telephone pole, it's a soldier manning a post, and it should fall under the guidelines of posse comitatus laws that say no soldiers or troops can't just be hanging out on the corner. That's what putting this on the telephone pole is. That's what this thing is. If that's troops on the corner, on every corner, all over again. Okay? So, all right, let me finish reading. A focused microwave beam from this equipment can suffocate a person in their sleep. Okay? Basically, it heats up the air like making popcorn and collapse a lung, causing death. Basically, you can drown in hot radiated air just like a person drowning in the ocean. Okay, now that's what I was saying. You know, imagine getting an x-ray all day. If you get an x-ray all day, your body going to shrivel up like Steve Jobs or like Patrick Swayze or like like the Adam Yauch from the Beastie Boys. Your body would just, you would just turn into like a raisin. You know, so no one wants to go through that. Now let's finish reading. This is a weapon that kills and should not be left on like a nightlight in our communities. There are numerous devices that detect and measure radiation available to monitor the device's output. It can also give mysterious cancers to a person's internal organs if under prolonged use. Imagine getting an x-ray all day or all night. The effects will be catastrophic to your well-being. That is why it should only be brought out in case of an actual riot. It should not be left up on the telephone pole in a residential neighborhood when there is no actual rioting. It should be not erected near gas stations either. As previously stated, it is a microwave weapon and can heat up the surface of anything it's aimed at. This could cause an explosion or ignite gases. It should not be put in schools, near daycares, or hospitals either. Okay? You would be asking the community to trust you that you would not overuse it, misuse it, or frivolously, abusively use the equipment. Lest we forget, this community's trust has already been betrayed by law enforcement, hence the riots themselves. Also herewith, there will be vigorous vetting of the companies that make this equipment, as many of our nation's military bases and other government institutions are pulling down surveillance equipment from China. They will have to make sure no surveillance equipment from China is used for inner city law enforcement or crowd control either. This type of equipment can be deadly if misused. After all, it was designated for military use on enemy soldiers. This has to be taken into account. This equipment is readily available overseas for purchase. This equipment is readily available overseas for purchase. Parameters need to be put in place so that every Tom, Dick, and Harry doesn't have it installed in their office building or their warehouses. It's a weapon and should only be used by police or military, not civilians. Not civilians or private security, which is what's going on basically. Private security firms can get their hands on this stuff, and now it's in office buildings where there's no rioting. It's in the warehouses where there's people minding their own business, oblivious. They don't know what's going on. It's in the warehouses too. With all this being said, there should be some parameters or ground rules for the usage. This way the communities will not be abused by the usage or sale of this equipment. The parameters that we the people think are fair are as follows. Now, let's go over this. Section number 1. All surveillance or monitoring equipment added to the telephone poles or other public places shall be vetted by community leaders. That means community leaders, stop the violence, coalitions, city council people, people like that, people that give a damn, basically. The full capabilities of all surveillance or monitoring equipment will be disclosed. That's what they're not doing. They're not telling you what this thing can do before it is attached to any public structure. It has to be disclosed what it does. Also, the devices should be carried in and out of conflict zones by police. They should never be erected indefinitely in any residential areas. Section number 2. A crowd control device should not be put in certain places according to its capabilities. Okay, now check this out. According to its capabilities. If the device emits an ultra high-pitched sound, it should not be put near dog pounds, daycares, railroad crossings, or retirement homes, which is duh. You can't hear the train coming. If there's something going, you can't hear the train coming. Or it's going to wake the babies up if you put it near a daycare facility. Or it's going to basically burst their eardrums. If you put it near a dog pound, you're going to hear dogs howling all night. Common sense of it. It would be inhumane. All right. Now, if the device emits a microwave beam, it should not be put in the range of a gas station, which is something that's going on here in Jacksonville. Okay? They're going to town with this stuff. They're putting it everywhere. Oh, I'm the new contractor. There's been like a bunch of new contractors that work for the city that have been doing roads, traffic lights, telephone poles. There's so many new ones that it's ridiculous. And they're putting this stuff everywhere. So, like I was saying, if it's one of the kind of devices, crowd control things, that emits a microwave beam, it should not be put near gas stations. What are you trying to do? Blow up? What do you want to blow up? That's bad as you. Oh, no. Boom. Show those protesters. This is ridiculous. That's something that's probably like that's phenomenal to them. Okay. So it should not be put near gas stations either. If it emits the microwave, which is common sense to me. Or any facility that has combustible flammable items. Okay, if it is one of the type of devices that can deny the Wi-Fi or cellular signals, what they call denial of service attacks, if it has that capability, it should not be put near hospitals. Okay, the reason why, because doctors and patients have equipment that they rely on that needs the Wi-Fi signals, okay, to keep people alive. Okay. Section number 3. In the dead of night, if there is no riot going on, it needs to be turned off. If there's no crowd of protesters, everybody's going home for the night, that stuff needs to be turned off. Okay. That's not what they're doing. They leave it on. It needs to be turned off. It needs to be turned off if there's no riot, but that's not what's going on. It looks like it's being left on like a nightlight. Okay, now shouldn't be aimed at one person or one household. You know how you see police all the time, they get in trouble for they got the guy already in cuffs and then they punch him or they taser him. Or even worse, like out in California, they shoot him, bam, and he's already in cuffs, bam, and the cop shoots him anyway. Okay, police are fired, or sometimes put in jail for these type of activities. So the same thing should apply to this riot control equipment. If you are using this stuff and there's no riot going on, there's like a what do we call a riot? Let's say a dozen people arguing with the police. That's a riot. A dozen people arguing with police about something. That's a riot. If that's not going on and you're using this stuff, you need to be put in jail or fired the same way they fire a policeman for beating up somebody in cuffs or shooting somebody in cuffs or pepper spraying somebody already in cuffs. Okay? And they need to put a computer system attached to this riot gear if they're going to use it at all, to make sure that if somebody's used, if you leave it on and there's no riot, the computer needs to be alert someone. Okay? The computer has to alert someone. Okay? Now, Section 4, only police or military institutions will be allowed to even own or possess said equipment with these crowd control capabilities. No civilian, no businesses, or private security for any purpose should be allowed to personally own this equipment. Like they should not be allowed to. If a conflict does arise at your business, if you have, let's say you got to lay people off, all of a sudden everybody start protesting. Okay? Call the police. Okay? If you own a business and you got to lay people off, or you got to hire some scrubs or whatever, you one of them union busters or whatever like that, you one of them union buster people, you trying to bust up the union. If a riot breaks out, call the police. Do not use this stuff, okay? Because there should be a law that says you could go to jail just like an assault charge. All right? Section 5. Any investigation involving the protection of this equipment, because that's the big thing here in Jacksonville, okay? Any investigation involving the protection of this equipment should be made public. This will stop the police from lying on the general public or lying on community leaders to keep their equipment in place. They pulling fire alarms left and right. Oh my God, it's an emergency. That guy doesn't like my equipment. Oh my God, I have to protect my equipment. Oh my God, did you see what this guy tweeted the other day? Oh my God, we have to protect ourselves and we need this equipment up because this guy tweeted something up. It's a bunch of fake investigations, manufactured investigations where they done hack somebody's Twitter account or hack somebody's IG account and added stuff to the Facebook to have a reason for this stuff up. Like, there's going to be a riot any minute. Oh my God, we need this stuff up. There's no riot. But there's no riot every time. That's what they're doing. So any investigation involving the protection of this equipment should be made public. That way they won't just be whispering behind your back but you don't know. They're using they're using some lie that they done told or some evidence that they done planted to keep this stuff up in the air. Okay? That's another thing. Let's go big time here in Jacksonville, dude. And now this is another thing too. Okay, I want to say this. I was watching CBS New York this morning on Pluto channel on the internet, and they did a story about this little girl in New York. Oh my God, this little white girl in New York. Her parents bought like a nanny cam. Okay, they put a camera in her room so they can see what she's doing all the time. And somebody hacked it and was talking to the little girl. She may have been like 7, 8 years old. Somebody hacked the nanny cam and they, hey, how are you doing? I'm Santa Claus. Don't you want to be my friend? And it really scared the bejesus out of her. She was like really freaked out. You could see it on her face. She was freaked out about what was going on. And it was some kind of nanny cam that they bought from Amazon. Like one of the Amazon. I don't even mean to mention that. I'm not bashing Amazon or anything, but the thing is that it's part of their Ring device. And if you got cameras out there, surveillance cameras out there that somebody can hack, that's what could happen. For all we know, They might. I mean, this stuff is getting more and more ridiculous. They can hack that stuff and do all kinds of stuff. But I definitely wouldn't want somebody talking to my kids like that in some deep voice. Sounds like the devil. Hey, I'm Santa Claus, little girl. I'm Santa Claus. Don't you want to be my friend? It's they played the video of it, and I couldn't believe it. But if somebody's doing that kind of stuff, they need to be that equipment needs to be checked. It needs to have better firewalls, or either not be used at all if that's what can happen. And I think that's why they're pulling this equipment down from the military base. Apparently, they're at the military base going, "Hey, I'm Santa Claus, little soldier boy. Hey, soldier boy, I'm Santa Claus. Don't you want to be my friend?" Hell no. Who said that? The fuck? Excuse my language. I didn't mean to curse. So anyway, they're pulling it down from the military bases. But if this stuff has a intercom system, it definitely needs to be checked too. Okay, now which brings me to section 6, and which I was going to bring up then. But if the crowd control device has an intercom system, this is what I added to this from last time. Okay, I added like 4 more statutes to it, 4 more sections to the bill that hopefully they can turn it into a law. But section 6. If the crowd control device has an intercom system that tells protesters to go home, racially diverse monitors are needed to operate the system. Okay? I'm going to say that again. If the crowd control device has an intercom system to tell the protesters to go home and stuff like that, hey, protesters, go home. Now hear this, go home. The police are on their way. Da 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 da. If there's an intercom on these devices, there needs to be racially diverse monitors to operate the system itself. This will ensure that no racial slurs or anti-Semitic comments are broadcast over the system. Okay? It will also ensure that law enforcement doesn't abuse the intercom by manufacturing testimonies. Okay? Because if you can throw your voice over this thing, all you need is another bug and they'll think that somebody else is talking. So to keep the cops from manufacturing testimony. Oh my God, they're listening in. Oh my God, did you hear that? I think I just heard. Hey, let's get a team over there. Get a team. Oh my God, did you hear? To keep them from doing this, like they're hearing stuff, the police are hearing things. Okay? To keep them from being this silly and ridiculous is that it needs to be other people. The full capabilities of this stuff needs to be disclosed, because what they're doing, and if you can throw your voice like a ventriloquist over this thing, like what just happened to this little girl, the surveillance cameras in New York that scared this little girl the other day. I want you to do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Look it up yourself. New York couple bought like a little nanny cam from Amazon, the part of their Ring system, which I'm not saying nothing bad about them, okay? Because I know the whole story behind it. Matter of fact, I did a story about how Nas, the rapper, he's a brilliant investment guy. He helped nurture the company Ring when it first started. Then Amazon bought it out, made him a very wealthy man. But apparently the software is a little off and it can be hacked. So they need to step up. So shout out to Nas. I really love Nas. I love the Ring, the people at Ring that invented this stuff. But it needs to be, you got to do better. You got to step up because of what happened. Let that be the reason. You know. But like I said, that's probably what's going on in the military bases too. So to keep the cops from throwing their own voice over the top of it, or somebody hacking it and throwing their voice and manufacturing testimony against protesters, manufacturing evidence against community leaders, that needs to be monitored too. Okay, now section 7. This is what I also added to it. This type of device should be classified as a microwave weapon. The Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms will be alerted of their experience of this existence. The Department of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms should be alerted of this weapon's existence in our society. As I said, Tom, Dick, and Harry got it now, not just the police. Excuse me. Also, it will be recommended that the Hague War Crimes Court in the Netherlands also be alerted. They regulate different anti-personnel devices like this in regards to cruel and unusual loss of health or life. They should be outlawed against civilians under the same Hague regulations that cover non-detectable fragments. This will ensure that war is not waged without a flag raised against any individual or community leader or any race. Okay? Section 8. Okay. An indefinite moratorium. Now get this one now, because this where they finna conflict with each other. This where these two finna conflict with each other, okay? Congress done made a law. They say pull it down. The military bases will pull it down. They just caught a big guy in New York that was contracting this stuff out. Okay, they caught a big guy in New York that was contracted to put all this equipment up. They're pulling them down from the military bases, the courthouses, the police stations. It's on the traffic cams too. They're pulling it down. Okay, so they need an indefinite moratorium against the future purchase of any of this kind of equipment, whether it's a body cam, a surveillance camera system, a traffic cam system, shot spotter, pooter scooter, whatever kind of gimmick junk that infringes on your, as I said before, the people that make this stuff are communists. They don't have any rights. They just sit there and take it. Okay? We're not used to that. You're trying to put a round peg in a square hole. It don't fit. You know? It does not fit. So you can't use that stuff on us. They make that stuff. They use it on their own people, but you can't use this in America and expect no one to say anything about it. Okay, Congress has said something about it. They're starting to pull this gimmick junk equipment down now. Let's get it popping. You know, let's get it down. Okay? So an indefinite moratorium needs to be put in place against any future purchase of this type of devices for anyone, whether it be law enforcement, government, military, or private security. Which is another thing here in Jacksonville, private security. You got all these new private security companies popping up, and they can get their hands on the new riot camera. I'm gonna give y'all a little history here before I continue. When I first did research about this in 2015, when I first did any research, they were saying that Mitt Romney was in league with the company called Bain Capital, and they invested a ton of money in a company called Uniview. Now, Uniview at the time came out with this new product that made the stock apparently take off, and it was called the Riot Camera. The Uniview Riot Camera. Well, basically, it's a crowd control device. It looks like a little camera, but it's a crowd control device, and you can put it up anywhere. You see them everywhere. You both believe me. You see them everywhere. But the thing is that they've been doing this stuff, and then, you know, eventually it's finally starting to catch up with them. And since it's catching up with them, we as the black community definitely be the first in line to complain about this stuff and get it taken. It was put up unjustly. That's like say okay, let's say the cops shoot you, or the cops shoot your dad. The cops shot your father, okay? And then a cop moves in next door because he needs to watch you. He feels as though he needs to watch you. That shit is ridiculous, and it needs to stop. That's basically what they're doing. They're putting cameras on a community that they've been abusing. Okay? So that needs to stop. And an indefinite moratorium needs to be raised against future purchase of this device for private security, military, whoever. Nobody should be able to buy it, because Congress has said, I mean, let's say the government facilities, military facilities definitely can't buy it anymore. That's the law. But as new buildings are built, let's say the FBI needs to move again. Let's say JSO moving. JSO is moving right now. The Sheriff's Department and the correctional facility, they're moving right now. Who's buying their cameras? Who's buying their surveillance cameras? Because they're going to end up violating this law that just passed that said they can't have any more of that junk from overseas. Okay? That's where these two going to crash right into each other. It just hasn't happened yet. And then, of course, like, there's going to be law enforcement officials that feel like they're tough guys. Nobody tells me I ain't taking my cameras down. What are you doing? Who do you think you are? Congress said this. Okay, I know I wrote one of these, but Congress has already put one in place that can be enforced before you start popping off at the mouth. Like, who do you think you are? You don't tell me to take my equipment down. That costs too much. They know the first thing they're gonna say, it costs too much. Okay, how do you know it costs too much? You got a receipt on you? Okay, because we're gonna start checking this stuff. As soon as you check the receipt, you know whether it came from China or not. Okay? So you can't say it costs too much without checking the receipt first. And as soon as you check the receipt, you can see where it comes from. And if it came from over there, it's one of these companies that's been making this stuff with dual controls that you don't know exist. It's got to come down, period. Whether you like it or not. Okay? And before you try and get slick, that's what the guy in New York is in trouble for. There's a contractor in New York, a security contractor in New York. That's what he's in trouble for right now. You know, he tried to tell him, oh, no, that stuff's not from China. No, it's not. No. There's no dual set of controls. There's no dual set of controls that they can hack in on. You know, that's what he was saying. But, but apparently he was lying, and all that stuff is from overseas. So that's what he's in trouble for right now before you get slick. So let me finish with this. Section 8. It would also be deemed a Class B felony if anyone, for any reason, possesses this equipment and uses it without an actual riot in place. A riot being defined as a dozen or more civilians arguing with police, in heated argument with police. This entity will be charged with a Class B felony under aggravated battery with a deadly weapon guidelines, carrying a term of a maximum of 15 years in prison, and appropriate civil fines not exceeding $100,001 will also be attached to ensure that any civilian injured and the courts be made whole again through the attachment of monetary damages. Let me say that again, okay? Basically, if you get caught using this stuff and there's no riot, okay, you're going to be charged with a felony. You should be charged with a felony. It's aggravated battery. It's aggravated battery with a deadly weapon, okay? Not only that, but then you got to pay a fine up to the amount of $100,000 to make sure that the court and the civilian injured is made whole again through the attachment of a monetary damage, okay? Okay, so it's up to the judge to attach damages. You prove that somebody's got it or they used it on you with no reason, that's $100,000, okay? And of course, if the injury is worse, it's going to be, there's going to be more money attached to it. Okay. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because under normal circumstances, the equipment is supposed to be just an annoyance. Okay. You say, why? it doesn't do all that. It's just supposed to be an annoyance. Okay. It doesn't do all that. Okay, this right here. See this right here? These are eyeglasses. But if I take the thing from the end and jam it in your eye, it's a weapon, right? Okay? These are eyeglasses. They're not bothering. These are my eyeglasses. They're not bothering anybody. It's not bothering anybody. Look at that. These are eyeglasses. But if I take the arm of it and jam it in your eye socket and blind you, yeah, okay, it's a weapon. Okay. That's the common sense of it also. This is being ignored. Okay? Under normal circumstances, the equipment is supposed to be an annoyance. But when it is used improperly or when it's abused or misused, it's a deadly weapon, and anyone doing this will be charged with a criminal felony and face their victim to explain their rhyme and reason. Okay, now, number 9, section 9. State and federal county funds associated with the purchase of the device will be monitored. This way, no future bulk purchases of the equipment will occur with the company of manufacturing said device, country of origin where said devices are manufactured has been deemed persona non grata or untrustworthy. Basically, this is another thing they finna bump into each other on. Okay, we need to be on top of this, black community. We need to be on top of this because no one wants to be watched and monitored 24/7 or x-rayed 24/7. Okay? If the country of origin or the manufacturer has been deemed persona non grata, then you definitely don't need this equipment. So stop buying it. That's another thing they're finna bump into each other. Okay, finally, number 10. All above rules apply to prison and correctional systems as well. This will ensure they do not misuse or abuse the prisoners with no actual riot in progress using said equipment. But basically, all the rules that I just read apply to the prison systems because they have surveillance cameras big time too and riot gear big time too. So, what we're trying to do here at Fletcher Community Media, which is myself, we're trying to keep the black community from being abused any further with this type of foolishness that's going on. You know, I mean, come to find out, you can throw your voice over this thing like a ventriloquist and scare little girls on some of these surveillance systems that's out there. They can zap stuff or whatever. It needs to stop. You know, it's just too much. And like I said, hopefully we can get one of our congressmen. Because like I said, maybe probably the next step is that I go to Tallahassee and try and introduce this to some of the senators there. Okay? Talk with senators here in Jacksonville, talk to city council, a bunch of the city council people gave out copies of this, and hopefully we can get one of them to adopt it and make it into an actual law. I think also I'm gonna go out and start getting some signatures, maybe do a petition to that this stuff the law says that they have to start looking at this stuff and make a plan to start taking it down, swapping it out, or whatever they're gonna do with it. From what I understood, the traffic cameras that were up were supposed to have been come down, not anyone putting up new ones. But there's people out here putting up new traffic cameras. They're putting up brand new traffic cams. From what I understood, the law said that the traffic cameras were supposed to come down, and things like that. So I know they already started. They already started taking down the red light traffic cams. That's the traffic cam. But now they got more red light traffic cams going up. Somebody's putting them up secretly, even though they said they was going to take them down. What is that? What is that? That stuff needs to be checked. Okay? So if y'all want to get one of my books, I will ask everybody to support Fletcher Community Media. I don't do the documentary movies anymore. I just do the action novels and the mystery novels, and I have a website. You can get to my website if you sign up for my. Give me a follow on Twitter. Give me a follow on Twitter at Issues by FCM. At Issues by FCM. Give me a follow on Twitter. You can access my website from there, or give me a follow on Instagram at Real Duane Fletcher. RealDuanefletcher. That's Dune, not Dwane. Okay, so please support Fletcher Community Media. Give me an email, and basically, if you want to purchase one of these books, let me know. All right, that's all I had to say for today, and I thank you for your time and your patience. All right, let's everybody go out and let's be safe.